Coach Dad here, and today we're going to go over king tactics that you can utilize in your game. So by this point, we know that an open king is very bad. We know that we can try to ignore attacks from a knight or a bishop, or even throw our rooks all the way across the board, and we can even possibly sacrifice our queen. But at the end of the day, the king is indispensable. You lose it, you get a checkmated, the game is over, because the end game has to deal with the king's checkmate or king's demise. So it comes that there are a couple of tactics and combinations that revolve this very important piece. So for this chapter, what we're going to talk about is the stalemate. So let's think about it. If your opponent is picking you apart, he's taking all your pawns, taking all your minor pieces, and has eventually even taken all your major pieces, and you're left with almost nothing, at this point in the game, you might think that you want to give up. But there is an option that could help you out with this, is getting yourself into a stalemate. A stalemate occurs only when it is your turn to move and you don't have any more legal moves to play. To learn more about stalemate, you can click on the link down below in the description, and you can learn more about what a stalemate is, so that way you can potentially put yourself in a stalemate when you're in a losing position. The reason why we may want a stalemate is because in tournament chess, a win is worth 1 point. A draw is worth half a point, and of course a loss is worth 0 points. So when your back is against the wall and you want to try to trick your opponent into capturing more than he should have, so that way you can force yourself into a stalemate, you'll be able to even salvage that critical half a point in tournament play. Here is a stalemated position. As we can see here, black has 2 pawns left that are stuck, that can no longer have any more legal moves, and black has his king all the way over here. As we can see here, white has their queen covering these squares, whereas the king is also covering these squares. If it is currently black's turn to move at this position in the game, it is a stalemate, because we know that black cannot move to any of these squares right here, because all the squares are cut off by all of these pieces, as well as doesn't have any other pieces on the board to move as well. So this here would be a stalemated position. For the next few examples, I'm going to invite you, the chess master at home, to be able to set up your very own board in front of you, and you'll be able to play alongside with me. You get to set up the board exactly like the examples that I'm about to show you right here, so that way you can try to solve these patterns and puzzles alongside with me. The moment you see these numbers right here in the top right hand side, you can press the pause button, or you can press the space button to pause it, set up the board, and solve it alongside with me, and then afterwards you can press play for the answers to be shown right after. For those who always ask me what kind of chessboards I use to teach, I have put those links in the description down below. You can click on those links to know these are chessboards that I use whenever I teach students in person. In this example right here, we have black at a big disadvantage with only a 1 major piece, the rook, versus a queen. This is a 3-point difference at the end game. As we can see here, white can be very close to winning, but black has a move to salvage for a stalemate. Can you find the best move for black in this example? If you said rook to b6, you are correct. If the rook moves over here to b6, it is now skewering this king all the way to the queen. Now white only has 1 response. Unfortunately, white cannot get out of the way of this check, and then he cannot go to these squares right here, because the king is over here on this side along with this rook covering this square on b7. So the best move right now is to take this rook. Unfortunately, now in this position, it is black's turn to move, and now is a stalemate. As we can see here, this is a complete stalemate as the example that we seen in our last one. The queen is covering all these squares, black has no other pieces to move on the board, and black has no legal squares to move to with the king. Black in this situation will be able to get that draw and get that half a point in chess tournament. In this practice example, we have white right here having 2 pawns closely marching up for a promotion and potentially checking this black king right here, as well as one major piece, the rook, protecting that march. However, black has 1 rook left and trying to defend off this position, but it looks very bleak for black. Can you find the best move for black in this example? If you said rook to f5, you are correct. In this case right here, what's going to happen, if black takes this rook and then it's black's current turn, black has nowhere to move. There are no more legal moves for this king. So despite the potential promotion that they have right here, black will be able to get that half a point draw. Well, you might be wondering, instead of capturing this rook right here, why doesn't white just run away to this square? Well, black will be able to play rook to h5 in order to check this king, and this king cannot move to this square. This square is guarded by black's king right here, and unfortunately this king cannot move up to help the pawns march up for promotion. So white's only move is to attack this rook right here on h5, and of course if we see that it is black's turn, it's the same stalemate as we mentioned earlier in this example. If white decides to run away to the other direction right here, what black can do is create a perpetual check. Whereas if you continue to check the king so many times and fall into the same position exactly 3 or more times, you then can declare a draw in chess tournament play. As we can see here, doesn't matter where white decides to go, black will continue to follow up with checks all along this line right here. In this practice example right here, we have white having a potential checkmate in 1 move, where white would be able to move the queen right here to h5 to be able to check this black king, because this black king cannot run over here to this square because this bishop is covering that square. So potentially white can win in exactly 1 move unless black does something about it. One of the things here is that white is also up 2 minor pieces and could potentially help with the march of these pawns going for an end game if this game goes on any longer as well. So black is in a very bleak position, and there has to be something to be able to salvage this half a point. Can you find the best move for black? If you said queen to h2, you have a very good eye. At this point, you have white's king right here, and white has to respond to this check right here. There are no other pieces that can try to capture this piece right here besides the king itself. But what black has done is, if white captures his queen, black no longer has a mobile piece on the board. As we can see here, all these pawns are stuck. All these pawns cannot move forward anymore. And of course, black's king cannot move to any legal squares. So if it now is currently black's turn after the capture of the queen on h2, black cannot move to any legal squares. And black will be able to get a nice half a point in the chess tournament in this scenario. In this example, black has a really good move to create a stalemate. Can you find that move? If you said rook to c4, you are correct. Because in this position, white now has to respond to this potential attacking fork right now. White has to be able to do something in this situation. As we can see here, white has 1 or 2 options. If white just decides to run away, of course, the black rook will just capture the queen down on c1. But white would probably have to respond by capturing this rook by moving the queen to c4. Now in this position, we see the stalemate here happening again. The queen is now covering this line, whereas the king is now covering these squares. The black king has no legal moves to move in this case, therefore being able to create a draw in this scenario. Thank you very much for watching this video and for all the support that you guys have given. I hope that today's lesson can help you get out of a sticky situation if you are down pieces, and hopefully you can have a keen eye for a potential stalemate. Again, be aware of your single pawn on the right hand side of the board or left hand side of the board that could potentially still move if you are trying to go for that stalemate position. Knowing this, don't give up. As long as you're still playing the game, you can potentially find opportunities to even salvage that half a point in a draw. Other than that, thank you very much for joining in. I hope to see you in the next video. For those who want to know what kind of materials that I use in order to teach chess in person, feel free to click the links down below. That helps very much with this channel, and your support is very much appreciated. If you have a story about yourself getting out of a losing position and you got your own stalemate, feel free to share that into the comments down below. And remember to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel if you haven't done so yet. Thank you very much again, and you have a great day.